Today, we're breaking down a single sentence that reveals far more than it hides. Because when people try to clear their name, and they do it by controlling the story, sometimes their mask slips. And this time, O.J. Simpson said the quiet part out loud. Welcome to Revealing the Crime, where we explore true crime, manipulation tactics, and the psychology behind criminal behavior, especially cluster B traits. This channel is for discussion and education, not diagnosis. Viewer discretion is advised, as some topics may be disturbing. Let's uncover the truth, one case at a time. There's a new documentary on Netflix about Ron Goldman, Nicole Brown Simpson, and O.J. Simpson. I'm on the first episode, and they showed a clip of an interview that I immediately saw, and I said, I need to look into this interview. I was able to find the clip, and I'm going to show it here. It's about 50 seconds long. So let's watch that clip, and then let's break down what OJ is saying.
After the 89 incident, I think it's pretty clear, and everything that Nicole may have stated in our divorce decree, what she might have stated even during an argument we had in 1993, that OJ has never touched me since that time. I think it's very clear that when Nicole and I was apart, that when she had some very emotional issues with the men that she was involved with, she came to me. I don't think a woman would do that if she felt that this person was insensitive or abusive, and certainly not jealous or possessive. If even when we were divorced and apart, that when she had personal problems, she came to me, and these are all very provable things that you will be hearing about.
And so all of the things.
Let's talk through this statement. He starts off by saying after the 89 incident, he's immediately framing it as an isolated event. He's emphasizing it because he's trying to say this was so rare that I know exactly when it happened. He's minimizing the past. He then quotes Nicole by saying that she said, OJ has never touched me since that time. She's using her words as a posthumous alibi. Then he says she had emotional issues with the men she was involved with. This is redirection and blame shifting. It paints her as unstable and him as the stable, supportive one, a reversal of the victim perpetrator dynamic. He says, she came to me. He's framing her confiding in him as proof of his innocence. But this is what trauma bonds look like. Let's dig deeper into a trauma bond. So, this is a psychological connection formed between a victim and the perpetrator, and it's built on a cycle of intermittent reinforcement, fear, intimacy, and confusion. It often includes abuse followed by affection, fear followed by relief, cruelty followed by I love you, distance followed by emotional pullbacks. Over time, this loop rewires the victim's sense of safety, making them crave closeness from the very person who's harming them. Now, let's apply that to OJ's quote. She had emotional issues with the men she was involved with. She came to me. On the surface, it sounds like he's saying she trusted me, she leaned on me. But here's what it might really signal. Number one, proximity does not equal safety. Victims of trauma bonds often go back to the person that's harming them for comfort, not because they're safe, but because they're familiar. The nervous system becomes conditioned to associate danger with attachment. Nicole returning to OJ does not clear him of wrongdoing. It may actually validate the depth of the trauma bond. Number two, she came to me is a manipulative reframe. OJ uses her returning as public defense rather than a reflection of her pain. He turns her behavior into his innocence, a classic narcissistic tactic. He doesn't ask why she came back. He doesn't acknowledge how trauma might have played a role. He simply uses it to say, if I were a threat, she wouldn't have come to me. This is false logic. Victims, number three, victims often minimize, rationalize, or reconnect. In trauma bonded relationships, victims often explain away past violence. They seek out the perpetrator during moments of chaos. They try to reestablish peace even at the cost of their safety. This is not rare, it's a well documented pattern. So, OJ's framing of Nicole's contact with him post separation isn't proof of peace. It's possible proof of a manipulative emotional tether she never fully escaped. And finally, no accountability results in reinforcing the bond. In the clip, OJ doesn't express remorse or reflection. He simply repositions himself as the victim's anchor without addressing why she would be in distress in the first place or how he contributed to that distress. In summary, the line, she came to me, is not a defense. It's a potential signal of a trauma bond, a bond that, tragically, many victims mistake for love, safety, or hope for change.
I think it's very clear that when Nicole and I was apart, that when she had some very emotional issues with the men that she was involved with, she came to me. I don't think a woman would do that if she felt that this person was insensitive or abusive and certainly not jealous or possessive. If
There's a lot going on here. And if you've ever dealt with a manipulator, you might hear the red flags immediately. Victims often return to the person who harmed them, not because they feel safe, but because they're used to instability, because it's familiar, because it's what their nervous system has normalized. And using that fact as a defense is deeply manipulative. Now let's zero in on the line that I believe exposes everything. He says, certainly not jealous. This is the tell. This is the mask slip. This is the part that says the most, in my opinion. Why? Because it's the third item in a denial list, and it's said as a double negative. Let's take a couple of words from that sentence out so that we can see things a little more clearly. The original sentence is, I don't think a woman would do that if she felt this person was insensitive, abusive, and certainly not jealous. The revised version of that sentence, I don't think a woman would do that if she felt this person was not jealous. And this is where the double negative is. The sentence should have said, I don't think a woman would do that if she felt this person was jealous. To me, it's overstated. It's said with too much force. And when people are innocent, they usually don't go out of their way to add a certainly. It's a double negative and it's overcompensation. And to me, that seems like subconscious admission. This is actually called repetition compulsion in language. When someone is fixated on clearing themselves of a trait, they circle back to it again and again, even while trying to avoid it. On my other YouTube channel, Revealing the Narc, I just posted a video, or I'm about to post a video, I don't know if it will go live yet, about Prince Harry and his repetition compulsion. I will link that in the description of this video. In Harry's example, we're seeing him repeat the same mistake over and over and over again. And to put it in a nutshell, when Harry was a young child, on the evening that his mother, Princess Diana, passed away, he declined talking to her on the phone. He had no way of knowing that his mother would pass away. He has mentioned multiple times how much he regrets not taking that call. What we're seeing now in Harry is a repetition of that behavior, but he's doing it in situations where it's predictable. He did it with Prince Philip, he did it with Her Majesty the late Queen, and it appears he's doing it now again with his father. This concept is incredibly interesting to me, and it's so serendipitous that we're seeing it play out in OJ's case with his language. So, repetition compulsion in language is when someone unconsciously reveals a deeper emotional pattern through the way they speak, especially by repeating certain themes, denials, or word choices that betray unresolved inner conflict. Examples of how this can be seen in language include over explaining or denying too much. For example, someone could say, I'm not mad. I swear I'm not mad. Why would I be mad? I'm totally fine. The repetition of not mad signals that they're probably mad. Another example, fixating on one trait or accusation. So in this video, we hear OJ saying insensitive, abusive, and certainly not jealous. That certainly not jealous part, he is saying it with too much force. He's emphasizing it and he accidentally overemphasizes it to the point that there's a double negative. To me, it looks like he's so focused on disproving that specific trait because it likely is true. And a third example of repetition compulsion in language is replaying the same emotional logic from a past relationship or trauma. For example, someone could say, she left me just like everyone else. Everyone always leaves. I'm used to it. This reinforces abandonment beliefs through speech and not just thought. So, in short, this is when someone unconsciously speaks in loops, circling back to the same emotional wound, defense, or denial, because that wound is still driving them. Even if they think they're explaining or convincing, their language gives away the unresolved pattern underneath. With regards to OJ and Nicole Brown Simpson, this jealousy was a known pattern and a dangerous one. Nicole had reportedly told friends she feared for her life when OJ saw her with other men. This jealousy was mentioned in reports, in diaries, and in calls to the police. So when he says certainly not jealous, he's trying to erase the trait that everyone already knows was there and it's documented. In trying to deny it so forcefully, he accidentally centers it. The other thing that OJ says that stood out to me was him saying, she came to me. He's rewriting the past as warm, cooperative, and intimate. He's saying she confided in me. The implication is she trusted me. She loved me. How could I be the threat? But that's not evidence of innocence. That's what many victims do in cycles of emotional abuse, especially when isolation, guilt tripping, or charm are part of the pattern. It's not a sign of safety, it's a sign of entrapment. This is a phenomenon called weaponized nostalgia. This is when someone selectively recalls or romanticizes the past in order to manipulate emotions, deflect accountability, or rewrite history in their favor. In relationships like the one that OJ and Nicole had, it could be like one of the partners saying, we had so many good times. Remember our honeymoon? That's who I really am. This statement is used to distract from the harm and emotionally hook the other person. Another example, a public figure might say, they used to love me. I was America's sweetheart. This tugs at collective memory to deflect from current criticism. And to reinforce what's saying here, OJ is saying, Nicole came to me when she had problems. She wouldn't have done that if I was abusive. He's cherry picking warm memories to erase the violence and recast himself as safe, caring, and trusted, even though those memories may have existed along danger. This weaponized nostalgia works because it triggers your emotional memory instead of your critical thinking. It creates a false sense of intimacy or clarity that helps the manipulator regain trust, sympathy, or control. Let's go to the very last sentence OJ says in this clip. He says, "These are all provable things." He ends with a veiled threat cloaked as reason. These are all very provable things that you will be hearing about. This isn't just a statement, it's a warning, it's a control tactic. It says, "Don't question me, I have the upper hand." That's not remorse, that's dominance. So you can see this isn't just about OJ Simpson. It's a pattern we see in abusers, narcissists, and public figures trying to reshape their image. They deny with excessive detail. They present selective truths as if it's the whole story. They flip the victim narrative, and they use emotionally loaded language to seem more human. But underneath it all, the pattern reveals itself because overcorrection is often confession in disguise. If you've ever felt confused by someone's words, even when they sound polished, even when they sound calm, that confusion is a clue because real truth is grounded, steady. It doesn't need to oversell itself. But when someone says, "certainly not jealous," with that much force, it's not reassurance, it's a red flag. Sometimes what they try not to say comes out anyway, because when the mask slips, sometimes it's not silent. Please let me know what your thoughts are on this. Drop those in the comments. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. I want to thank you all so much for listening. I will talk to you all soon. Bye, everybody.